Imagine walking into a bank today claiming to be the secret, illegitimate daughter of Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk and asking for a multi-million-dollar loan using a forged piece of paper. You would be arrested in 5 minutes. But in the Gilded Age, one woman pulled off this exact scam. She convinced the ruthless bankers of America that she was the secret heir to Andrew Carnegie, the richest man in the world. She bought diamonds by the peck and lived like royalty, all while building a house of cards that eventually brought entire financial institutions crashing to the ground. Welcome to Exhibit Absurd. Our story begins in the 1890s with a woman named Elizabeth Bigley. Born on a modest farm in Ontario, Canada, Elizabeth realized early on that she had a talent for forgery and a taste for extreme luxury. After a few early arrests for bank fraud, she realized she needed a permanent, respectable cover. She moved to Cleveland, Ohio, reinvented herself as a clairvoyant named Madame Lydia de Vere, and eventually married a wealthy, highly respected physician named Dr. Leroy Chadwick. Elizabeth Bigley was dead. She was now Cassie Chadwick, a high society wife living on Cleveland's famous Millionaire's Row. But the doctor's comfortable wealth wasn't enough for Cassie. She wanted empire-level money, and she formulated a plan that was absolutely brilliant in its audacity. In 1897, Cassie traveled to New York City and asked a lawyer friend to drive her to the Fifth Avenue mansion of Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie was a steel magnate and virtually the wealthiest man on earth. Cassie told her lawyer friend she had an appointment. She went inside the mansion, likely just speaking to a maid in the foyer, and came back out 20 minutes later holding a piece of paper. She accidentally dropped it, allowing the lawyer friend to see it. It was a promissory note for $2 million, allegedly signed by Andrew Carnegie himself. When the lawyer asked about it, Cassie swore him to secrecy and confessed that she was Carnegie's illegitimate daughter. She claimed the steel baron was overcome with guilt and was quietly funding her life to avoid a massive public scandal. Cassie knew the lawyer wouldn't keep the secret, and she was right. The rumors spread through the financial underworld like wildfire. Armed with her forged $2 million note and a fake trust deed claiming she would inherit $7 million upon Carnegie's death, Cassie began visiting banks. The banks were completely blindsided by greed. They assumed that a society woman couldn't possibly be a master forger. Over the next 8 years, Cassie leveraged these fake documents to take out massive unbacked loans from banks across Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts. She borrowed an estimated $1.2 million to $2 million in cash. In 1904, that was an unimaginable fortune. Adjusted for inflation today, Cassie was sitting on roughly $40 million to $65 million. She used it to buy entire closets of designer European dresses, solid gold furniture, and literally bought diamonds by the peck. But a Ponzi scheme built on a fake dad can only last so long. In 1904, a Massachusetts banker named Herbert Newton called in a $190,000 loan he had made to Cassie. When she couldn't pay, Newton panicked and sued her. The lawsuit triggered a massive bank run. Suddenly, all the financial institutions that had lent her millions realized they didn't actually have Carnegie's money. In a sheer panic, the banks finally did what they should have done years ago. They contacted Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie's response was blunt. He had never heard of Cassie Chadwick. He hadn't signed a single promissory note in over 30 years. In an instant, the illusion shattered. Cassie fled to New York and hid in a hotel, but she was quickly arrested by federal authorities wearing a money belt stuffed with over $100,000 in stolen cash, the equivalent of over $3.3 million today. The resulting trial in 1905 was an absolute media circus. The public was obsessed with the woman who had effortlessly scammed the most powerful men in America. Her defense strategy was hilariously audacious. Her lawyer actually tried to portray Cassie as a helpless female being oppressed by wealthy male capitalists. The prosecutor quickly countered that narrative, pointing out she had deprived widows and orphans of their hopes of peace and prosperity in their old age. But the courtroom wasn't just a legal battleground. It was the hottest ticket in town. High society women fought tooth and nail for gallery seats, bringing opera glasses and boxed lunches just to watch the spectacle. Cassie turned the defense table into her own personal stage. Despite facing financial ruin, she showed up every day dressed in the finest silks and furs her stolen millions could buy, treating the trial less like a criminal prosecution and more like a Parisian fashion show. She frequently feigned dramatic fainting spells whenever the evidence got too damning, forcing court officials to revive her with smelling salts while the press corps practically broke their pens trying to capture the drama. The trial exposed the staggering incompetence of the American banking system. The Citizens National Bank of Oberlin had literally loaned her $240,000, roughly $8 million today, and 4 times the bank's actual capital based on nothing but her crude forgeries. The most shocking part of the whole debacle? When the bank finally grew suspicious, an attorney spent exactly 25 cents to contact New York and confirm her collateral. They found out she was a fraud on the exact same day. A multi-million-dollar banking collapse could have been prevented by a quarter. Andrew Carnegie himself attended the trial, fascinated to see the woman who had forged his name with such audacity. He reportedly remarked that the entire fiasco could have been avoided if anyone had just bothered to ask him. Feeling terrible that the Oberlin bank collapse had financially ruined innocent students, Carnegie generously donated $125,000 to build a new library for Oberlin College. Cassie's luck had finally run out. She was found guilty on 7 counts of conspiracy and sentenced to 14 years in prison, bringing the ultimate Gilded Age grift to a close. Cassie Chadwick died in prison just 2 years later in 1907. She left behind a legacy as one of the most successful con artists in history. She proved that if you project enough wealth and prey on the absolute greed of the financial elite, people will believe exactly what they want to believe. If you want to uncover more bizarre evidence from the most chaotic archives of history, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you next time on Exhibit Absurd, and thank you again for listening.